Have you ever felt as if you were trying to plug an invisible hole inside of you? As if something, even when everything looks right on the outside, were painfully absent on the inside? Perhaps that emptiness led you to habits that began innocently, a distraction here, a bit of relief there, but that, over time, turned into invisible shackles. The name we usually give this is addiction. But what if I told you addiction is not the problem itself, but the symptom of a soul screaming for rescue? According to Carl Jung, addiction is not merely a disease, it is the psyche's cry to return to the lost center. In this video you won't hear a moralistic sermon. You will plunge into a deep, poetic, psychological exploration where we will frame addiction as a desperate reach for transcendence, an unconscious ritual, a silent plea for belonging and meaning. Stay with me, each word you hear could be a lantern guiding you out of your silent maze now. Carl Jung believed addiction is born whenever we lose contact with the self, the sacred core of our identity. What society calls weakness, he saw as a potent symbol, the soul trying to find its way back home even if by crooked paths. Today you will understand why this trip that seems dark is, in truth, deeply spiritual. We will walk among shadows, traumas, and compulsions, not to fight them but to listen to them. Because every addiction hides a yearning, every pain a story. And every uncontrollable impulse is, in fact, a message from the unconscious trying to tell you, there is more here. Hear me. If you have tried everything and still feel trapped, maybe it is time to change the question. Instead of, how do I stop? The better question might be, what is my soul trying to show me behind this behavior? Jung taught us that we only heal when we embrace what we most try to reject. So breathe deeply. Because this is not a journey of fixing. It is a journey of reconnection. Walk on. Carl Jung once said, every addiction is an unconscious attempt to attain a spiritual experience. At first, that idea might sound like a contradiction. After all, how can something that destroys us, that chains us down, that weakens us, possibly be a spiritual path? But look closer. Every time someone lights a cigarette in silence, every time they eat far beyond what their body asks, every time they shop compulsively or drown in hours of pornography, there's a specific moment, a fleeting instant of relief, of forgetting, of pain disappearing. In that moment the ego dissolves. The mind goes quiet. And something deep inside feels, if only for a second, free. Jung called this the sacred substitute, a cheap imitation of true spiritual ecstasy. The problem isn't the longing for transcendence. The problem is where we've been taught to seek the sacred. Compulsion becomes an unconscious ritual. A distorted sacrament where the person tries, desperately and in vain, to reconnect with something greater than themselves. Behind every addiction, there lies a hidden myth, the ancient yearning to return to the spiritual womb, to that primal sensation of unity we once felt and lost. We are spiritual beings trying to find our way back home, but sometimes we take shortcuts that only pull us further off course. And that's exactly why treating addiction purely as a moral failure or a chemical imbalance falls painfully short. It's like staring at an iceberg and trying to melt it with a match. Addiction runs deep because it's born in the unconscious. It is the cry of the soul longing to feel alive, connected, present. And when we ignore that cry, it emerges as destructive patterns. Addiction then isn't just a mistake, it's an attempt at healing, at communion, at spirituality. And once we begin to understand this, something shifts. We stop seeing addiction as the enemy, and begin to see it for what it truly is, a messenger. Behind every addiction, there is a pain that was never heard, an absence that was never filled, and, more deeply, a constant state of disconnection from the now. The addicted mind is, above all, a mind that flees from the present moment. It cannot tolerate silence, cannot bear the pause, cannot handle contact with its own inner reality. Because in the present lives the trauma, lives the shame, lives the deep sense of emptiness. So the brain, trained to escape, creates perfect mechanisms of avoidance, stimuli that fill, dopamine that distracts, habits that numb. And over time, the now becomes a hostile territory. The addicted mind becomes a mind exiled from itself. It is always trying to leave the present moment because the present feels unbearable. But here lies the paradox: healing lives only in the now. When you begin to truly observe what you're feeling, when you hold your discomfort without reacting, when you breathe into your own pain, something miraculous begins to happen. You stop running. You start being. And to be, in this context, is a revolutionary act. A present mind doesn't need compulsions, because it starts to realize that pain, no matter how intense, is temporary. That emptiness is not a curse, it's fertile ground. That anxiety doesn't need to be battled, it needs to be understood. Jung said healing doesn't happen by avoiding suffering, but by walking through it with awareness. And this is the turning point in any addiction journey, when presence becomes stronger than the impulse. When silence becomes more captivating than escape. When the present moment stops being a prison, and becomes a portal. There's an invisible pattern behind every compulsive behavior, the self-sabotage cycle. It begins with an internal promise. You tell yourself, this time it's going to be different. Today I won't fall into that same pattern. Now I'm going to change. And for a few hours, or maybe even a few days, it feels like you really will. But then the trigger appears, that familiar feeling, that subtle frustration, that tension in the chest that warns you something inside is about to crack. And you crack. You repeat the same behavior. You eat what you promised you wouldn't. You get into another argument you swore you'd avoid. You scroll for hours even while hating how it makes you feel. And then comes the guilt, the shame. The voice saying, I can't do this, or, something's wrong with me. And that guilt, instead of healing, only fuels the cycle further. Because it reinforces the belief that you're out of control, that you'll never change, that maybe you don't even deserve to change. This is where deep psychological work shines like a light in the middle of a repetitive tunnel. Jung reminds us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, until you shed light on what's truly driving you, and on what's really hiding behind your compulsions, you will keep spinning in circles and labeling it personal failure. But it's not failure. It's an unconscious loop. A trauma that hasn't been heard yet. An emotion frozen in time. And the key to breaking this cycle is not willpower. It's awareness. It's in asking yourself, what am I trying to avoid with this behavior? What do I actually need when I feel this way? Where is this pain coming from? Because only when the pain is given a voice, it can finally stop screaming through addiction. When we talk about addiction, we're talking above all about an absence. An absence of presence. An absence of being. Addiction is an automatic movement that hijacks your attention and drags it away from the now. It disconnects you from yourself. Exiles you from your soul. And that exile is what hurts the most. The substance, the behavior, the repetition, all of that is secondary. What truly robs you of your peace isn't what you do, but the fact that while you're doing it, you are asleep inside. Unconscious. Disconnected. The real pain isn't in the compulsive act itself, but in how it steals you from your own presence. It makes you forget that you exist beyond anxiety, beyond urgency, beyond the immediate need to escape. Eckhart Tolle says that addiction is anything you use to fill the void of unlived presence. Anything that becomes an escape from the now. An escape can take subtle forms, not just extreme behaviors. It can be in the endless scrolling on your phone, in the need for other people's approval, in perfectionism, in hyperproductivity, even in spirituality when it's used as emotional anesthesia. Addiction, in that sense, is a technology of the ego to avoid the discomfort of simply being. Of simply feeling. Because feeling, for someone who carries old wounds, can be terrifying. But that is exactly where healing begins, in the return to presence. Not the kind of presence you fake by meditating for 5 minutes while thinking about your bills. But embodied presence. The kind that breathes alongside your pain. That watches the addiction rise without judgment. That faces the impulse with compassion, without giving in and without suppressing it. This presence is the only force capable of dissolving the addictive loop. Because when you're truly present, you don't need to escape. There's nothing to run from. Consciousness replaces addiction. Attention heals automatism. And suddenly you realize you have a choice. That you can do things differently. That the cycle can be interrupted, but not through control. Through awakening. Have you ever wondered why, even after all your effort, you end up back in the same place? Why, even after stopping for a while, the urge returns even stronger? The answer isn't just in your mind, it's in your energy. What few people realize is that every addiction has a specific vibrational signature, an energetic frequency that lodges itself in your field and starts to operate like a silent magnet. This signature is shaped by emotions you didn't know how to feel: fear, guilt, rejection, abandonment. Every time you run from these feelings, you're feeding that frequency. And that frequency is what relentlessly attracts the return of the cycle. Quantum physics has already shown that the observer influences the field. And when you're not conscious, it's your trauma that's observing your reality. Your energy field, contaminated by old patterns, keeps collapsing possibilities that resonate with the same unresolved pain. That's why it feels like you're living on repeat, because in a way you are. You're stuck in a timeline that responds to your unhealed energy. You're not addicted only to the substance or behavior. You're addicted to the chemistry of the emotion that comes with that pattern. Addicted to feeling the same emptiness, the same anger, the same anxiety, because those emotions have become familiar. And the human brain has a deep attachment to familiarity, even when it's destroying you. The way out, then, is not to fight the addiction. That only strengthens the cycle. It's to deactivate the frequency that sustains it. And that begins with energetic self-awareness. You have to start noticing what you're feeling before the urge shows up. Notice the inner atmosphere that comes just before the act. Feel what you're truly seeking when you chase after quick relief. This awareness isn't intellectual, it's vibrational. It's like changing the background music of your energy field. When you shift your frequency, you start accessing realities where the addiction simply can't feed. Because now your field is tuned to a different experience. And reality responds. Now that we understand addiction and repetitive cycles are deeply connected to your energy, the next essential step is learning how to identify energetic triggers. These triggers are those situations, emotions, or even thoughts that activate the frequency of the cycle, almost like a secret password that unlocks the compulsion. They can be external, like the environment you're in, the people around you, sounds or smells. Or they can be internal, like a sudden wave of anxiety, sadness, or repressed anger. What energy science and quantum psychology reveal is that these triggers are automated responses from your nervous system and energy field, a field that's been programmed to react in specific ways. Imagine that your body and mind are like an orchestra, and certain notes always trigger the same melody. If you don't learn to recognize those notes, you'll stay stuck in the same repetitive song. That's why the first step to interrupting the cycle is to develop a sensitive, ongoing awareness of when these triggers appear. This requires a daily practice of attentive observation of your emotional, physical, and mental state, without judgment. It means noticing what happens inside you in the seconds before the urge arises. What thoughts appear? What physical sensations come up? You can begin by keeping an energy journal, noting these moments to map out patterns. As this awareness grows, you create an internal space to choose a new response, one that's different from the habitual. That new response generates a new frequency, which in turn begins to reconstruct your timeline away from addiction. The power lies in transforming your perception, in realizing the trigger is just a signal, a message your body and energy are trying to communicate. And by responding with consciousness, you begin to reprogram your field and open the door to a new reality, one where energetic freedom becomes possible. With your triggers identified, the next crucial step is to develop the skill of conscious presence, a powerful tool for interrupting the vicious cycle at the exact moment it tries to take over. Presence, in this context, means being fully aware of what is happening inside and around you, without getting swept away by automatic thoughts or emotions. When the addictive urge shows up, your mind tends to speed up, spinning into justifications and future projections, which only feed the energetic loop. Practicing presence is like pressing a pause button. It slows down that mental race and brings you back to your center. Simple techniques like conscious breathing, body scanning, or focusing on a single point in your environment are effective ways to anchor your attention in the now. As you breathe deeply and with intention, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for calm and restoration, which immediately disarms the automatic addictive response. More than that, presence creates an inner space where you can observe the craving without acting on it, giving you the power to choose a different path. In that space, you are no longer a prisoner of your impulses. You become the observer and the decision maker. This daily practice strengthens your energy field, expanding your capacity for self-control and awareness. Over time, you build a new energetic pattern, one that no longer resonates with the old traps. And as that pattern shifts, so does your timeline. You begin to move into a reality where addiction loses its grip because the frequency that once sustained it no longer exists in your field. This isn't about perfection or eliminating challenges overnight. It's about transforming your relationship with them. Presence doesn't make the urge disappear instantly. What it does is reposition you at the center of your experience. It hands the steering wheel back to your consciousness, allowing you to respond instead of react. And in that response, a new version of your reality begins to unfold, one aligned with freedom, clarity, and energetic sovereignty. After learning how to recognize your triggers and cultivate presence, it's time to go even deeper, reprogramming the mind to replace the limiting patterns that fuel addiction and energetic loops. The subconscious mind is where most of these habits and beliefs are stored, quietly running in the background and influencing your actions and choices without your conscious awareness. If left unchecked, these invisible programs keep you locked in the same emotional cycles, no matter how much willpower you try to use. That's why true change must happen at the root, where these patterns live. Reprogramming begins with identifying the beliefs that sustain your compulsive behaviors, such as, "I need this to feel okay," "I can't handle stress without it," or, "I have no control over my emotions." These statements act like internal scripts, reinforcing the loop every time they go unchallenged. One powerful method to shift them is the conscious repetition of positive, truth-aligned affirmations. Phrases like, "I am strong and capable of choosing what supports me," "I am in control of my energy and habits," or "Each day I build a healthy and fulfilling life," when repeated with emotion and intention, start to reshape your neural pathways and rewrite your internal narrative. Another powerful tool is creative visualization. Envision yourself already living the life you want. Feel the freedom of having broken the addiction, the peace of a calm mind, the radiant energy flowing through your body. This mental rehearsal activates your brain in ways that mirror real experiences, reinforcing the new identity you're building. The more vividly and emotionally you imagine this new version of yourself, the stronger the signal becomes in your energy field, and the faster it manifests in your outer reality. The secret lies in consistency and emotional engagement. Your brain learns best when new information is paired with strong feelings, signaling that the shift is important and real. By practicing these tools daily, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing your frequency. Over time, this reprogramming becomes the foundation of a new energetic timeline, one where the old loop dissolves and is replaced by habits and beliefs that support your freedom, wholeness, and personal power. Now that you're beginning to understand how your mind and energy create and sustain addiction, it becomes essential to look at your outer environment and the relationships around you. They have a massive impact on your ability to break free from repetitive cycles. Your physical and social surroundings act as both mirrors and triggers for your inner patterns. If you're constantly exposed to situations, people, or objects that reinforce addictive behaviors, it becomes significantly harder to break the loop. That's why cleansing the energetic space around you is a vital step in the healing process. Start by observing where you spend most of your time, your home, your workplace, your leisure areas. These places absorb and retain energy, which can become heavy or negative over time, influencing your emotional and mental state without you even realizing it. Performing an energetic cleanse in these spaces, using incense, crystals, sound, or even simple physical reorganization and cleaning, can refresh the energetic field and support your shift. As you clear these external spaces, you also begin to release what no longer resonates with your evolving inner state. Beyond physical space, interpersonal relationships play a critical role. Being surrounded by people who don't respect your journey, who encourage your addictive patterns, or who carry their own unresolved emotional baggage, can drain your energy and sabotage your progress. Identifying these toxic connections and consciously choosing relationships that support your spiritual and emotional growth is a transformative act. It's not about isolation, it's about choosing connection with discernment, aligning with those who uplift your frequency and honor your evolution. When you take control of your environment and relationships, you're not just rearranging your external world, you're shifting the entire field of energy you live in. Every intentional change you make strengthens your new timeline, a reality where addiction no longer has the same pull and your personal power continues to expand. This alignment between inner and outer space is key to maintaining the transformation you're building, one conscious choice at a time. Now that you understand the impact of your environment and relationships, it's time to turn inward and realize how self-knowledge is the master key to breaking vicious cycles and aligning with your true timeline. Self-awareness empowers you to recognize the emotional, mental, and energetic triggers that lead you to repeat negative patterns. It brings light to parts of your psyche that have long remained in the shadows, those aspects of yourself you may have avoided or feared confronting. This journey of self-discovery opens the doorway to deep inner freedom. Practices such as meditation, reflective journaling, therapy, or even conscious internal dialogue are powerful tools to gain clarity about your motivations, fears, and true needs. When you know yourself more deeply, you're no longer at the mercy of automatic reactions. You begin to respond with awareness, and that conscious shift rewrites the narrative of your life. This is where real transformation begins, not in suppressing behavior but in understanding the root of it. Self-knowledge dissolves the illusion of helplessness and brings you into contact with your own inner authority. Self-knowledge also reconnects you with your essence, the truest, deepest part of who you are, beyond limiting beliefs and emotional wounds. This reconnection is crucial for creating a new timeline, one that is aligned with your purpose and genuine happiness. When you operate from this place, you're no longer guided by pain, but by intention. You don't just break the cycle, you transcend it, designing a life that reflects your soul's desires rather than your unconscious fears. As you deepen this inner work, you begin to write a new internal script, one that no longer echoes the pain of your past, but opens space for healing, growth, and expansion. In this new story, you're no longer a passive character. You're the conscious creator, the one choosing each thought, action, and belief that builds your reality. And that awareness is what truly sets you free. We now arrive at a vital step in this journey, reconnecting with the higher self, that inner voice that speaks with wisdom beyond logic, and your intuition, which acts as a spiritual GPS to navigate through life. The higher self is your purest essence, the part of you that remains deeply connected to the universe and to the creative source energy that governs all things. It's the quiet guide within, capable of revealing whether the timeline you're living truly belongs to you, or if it's an illusion shaped by outdated patterns, borrowed beliefs, or external influences. Recognizing and tuning into this inner voice allows you to notice subtle signals, whispers of intuition that point out when something is misaligned. Intuition operates like a beacon, a silent alarm urging you to change direction when you've strayed from the path of your higher purpose. It's not loud or forceful. It often comes as a gentle knowing, a feeling in the body, or a deep emotional resonance that defies explanation. But ignoring this guidance can keep you stuck in timelines that no longer serve your evolution. Most of us have been conditioned to trust only logic and tangible proof. Yet, to step off the wrong timeline and enter a new reality aligned with truth, it's essential to develop this subtle perception, the one that arises not from the intellect but from energy, emotion, and embodiment. It speaks a language the rational mind has yet to fully grasp, and listening to it requires presence and trust. Practices that deepen this connection, such as meditation, contemplation, immersion in nature, and sacred silence, amplify the voice of the higher self. Over time, it becomes a clear, steady compass guiding your decisions, actions, and inner shifts. Through this sacred reconnection, you're no longer led by fear or programming. You begin to walk a timeline that honors your soul's wisdom. And from there, the cycles of addiction and disconnection lose their power. Now we dive into one of the greatest obstacles to breaking free from the wrong timeline: excessive identification with the ego, that part of our psyche that creates a fixed narrative about who we are, shaped by fear, insecurity, and past conditioning. The ego acts like a distorted lens through which we view reality. It's constantly trying to protect the identity it has carefully constructed over the years. But this protection comes at a cost. It breeds resistance to change and attachment to patterns that no longer serve us. Patterns that feel safe only because they are familiar. When we're fully dominated by the ego, we operate in repetitive loops, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that reinforce the same reality over and over, even if that reality brings pain, frustration, or a sense of emptiness. These cycles become invisible prisons, locking us into timelines we didn't consciously choose. And the more we try to escape through force or control, the tighter the ego clings to its illusion of safety and permanence. Disidentifying from the ego doesn't mean eliminating it. The ego is a necessary structure for human life. But it does mean realizing that it is not the ultimate authority over your existence. True transformation begins when consciousness takes the lead, when you step back from your thoughts and emotions and begin to observe them with compassion and neutrality. This distance creates the space for the true self to emerge. The part of you that knows it can rewrite the script, choose a new direction, and embody a new version of who you are. As this disidentification deepens, a new clarity arises. You begin to see the ego's tricks, the ways it clings to pain, comparison, and control. And in that recognition you unlock new creative potential. You realize that life is not fixed, it's fluid. And you have the power to shift timelines, release outdated roles, and align with a more authentic, expansive, and soul-guided reality. Now that we understand the importance of disidentifying from the ego, let's dive into a fascinating dimension: the subtle signs your parallel self sends you when you're living a timeline that doesn't match your true essence. These signs often appear in unexpected ways: physical sensations, intuitive hunches, or dreams that feel more like messages than random images. They are like quiet inner alarms, nudging you to shift course, to realign with the version of you that exists beyond fear and conditioning. One of the most common signs is a persistent sense of disconnection or emptiness, that feeling that something is missing, even if everything on the outside seems normal. It's a subtle ache, a quiet whisper from your parallel self trying to reach you, letting you know you're out of sync with your true trajectory. It's not about external problems, it's an internal signal that your soul is not where it longs to be. Another powerful sign comes in the form of repeated synchronicities, those strange, meaningful coincidences that seem to defy logic. They are not random. They are invitations. They ask you to wake up, to question the path you're on, and to consider the unexplored alternatives that are already trying to unfold. These synchronicities are breadcrumbs leading you toward a timeline more aligned with who you really are. You may also experience sudden mood shifts, emotional turbulence that seems to come from nowhere. This inner chaos is often a clash between your current reality and the emerging possibility of a new version of yourself. As this new self begins to stir, your intuition sharpens. You receive insights and ideas that challenge your routine, thoughts that feel foreign but strangely familiar, echoes of the you that already exists on another level. Dreams, too, can be a direct channel. Vivid dreams, recurring themes, or powerful symbols linked to change and rebirth often come from your parallel self. These are not just mental leftovers. They are messages from a deeper realm trying to guide you across timelines. Learning to interpret them is learning to decode your own soul. Staying attuned to these signs is crucial for making the shift consciously, rather than remaining stuck in cycles that no longer belong to you. Recognizing these signals is the first step toward hearing the voice of your parallel self and beginning the journey toward a life that reflects your full, untapped potential. We've arrived at the crucial turning point: how to exit the wrong timeline and begin living a life that is truly aligned with your parallel self, the most authentic, expansive version of who you are. The first and most essential step is the awakening of consciousness. This means becoming deeply aware of the patterns, thoughts, and behaviors that repeatedly pull you away from your truth. Begin practicing daily self-observation. Write down your thoughts, emotional responses, and moments that trigger discomfort or disconnection. This awareness lays the foundation for genuine transformation. Next, incorporate meditation and inner silence as a regular practice. These moments allow you to hear the subtle messages of your parallel self, offering clarity about what needs to shift. During meditation, visualize yourself fully living the life you desire. Feel the emotions, embody the energy, and let that version of you begin to imprint on your current reality. This isn't just imagination, it's energetic alignment in action. What you feel consistently, you begin to attract. Another vital step is to question and dismantle your limiting beliefs. Many people stay stuck in the wrong timelines simply because they believe outdated stories about themselves. I'm not capable, that life isn't for me, it's too late to change. These beliefs act like invisible chains. Identifying them and consciously replacing them with empowering truths creates the space for new possibilities to emerge and take root. Daily gratitude is also a powerful practice to raise your frequency and attract more aligned experiences. Gratitude is more than just a positive habit, it's a vibrational force that syncs your energy with the frequency of your parallel self. It opens the door for your reality to shift in response to your internal state. What you appreciate expands. What you thank stays. Gratitude transforms. It's also crucial to take practical, consistent action. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Small, intentional choices, choosing differently at the grocery store, saying yes to an opportunity, setting a new boundary, begin to shift your timeline. Let your daily actions reflect your new values and the future you want to embody. That's how the inner alignment becomes outer change. Finally, surround yourself with people who support your evolution. Relationships that resonate with your new frequency will naturally uplift and accelerate your transition. When your environment reflects your growth, it becomes easier to maintain momentum. The energy of aligned community is a powerful anchor to your parallel self. Remember, living in the right timeline isn't a destination. It's a continuous journey of self-discovery, alignment, and expansion. Your parallel self is always there, ready to guide you. You just need to listen, trust, and move in rhythm with the truth of who you really are. Now that you understand the signs of the wrong timeline and know how to recognize your parallel self, you're ready to take conscious, transformative control of your reality. The great truth is this: the timeline you live in is not fixed. It is a dynamic construction shaped by your choices, your beliefs, and your vibration. Every decision, no matter how small, is a portal. And with every moment, you are either reinforcing an outdated identity or aligning more deeply with your true, limitless self. Each moment is a chance to reinvent yourself, to break free from patterns that no longer serve you, and to awaken to a version of yourself that is more powerful, authentic, and aligned. Change begins from within, the moment you choose to let go of the past and reconnect with the infinite potential of your parallel self. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you truly are beyond the conditioning, the fear, and the illusion of limitation. Keep in mind that the path toward your correct timeline may come with challenges, resistance, or moments of doubt. But every step taken with awareness and self-love is a meaningful leap forward. Trust the process. Celebrate the small victories. And remain open to the synchronicities that the universe sends to confirm you're on the right path. These signs are not random. They are echoes from your parallel self, gently guiding you home. Your parallel self is a constant invitation to expand, to live a life that is richer, fuller, and more meaningful. When you choose to live in harmony with that version of yourself, you gain access to a reality where clarity, peace, and purpose become your new normal. You begin to attract experiences that mirror your inner transformation. The outer world changes because your inner world has awakened. This is the real shift. So now the question remains: are you ready to wake up, break free from the wrong timeline, and embrace the life your parallel self is waiting to live with you? This is your journey. And everything begins with one conscious choice, the choice of where and who you truly want to be. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more insights that will elevate your consciousness and transform your life. I'll see you in the next video.